Los Angeles Clippers trading for Rajon Rondo. So we knew that the Los Angeles Clippers were in heavy pursuit of Rajon Rondo this offseason as a free agent, fresh off of winning his, I think, second ring with the Lakers. And for whatever reason, the Atlanta Hawks signed Rondo. I never understood what they wanted from Rondo. I mean, Trae Young plays, 37, 38 minutes a night, and he monopolizes the ball for all 38 minutes he plays. So I never understood why they wanted Rondo. Rondo hasn't really played for them. He's been injured. And now they traded him for Lou Williams and 2 second-round picks. So let's talk about this from the Clippers' perspective. What does it mean for the Los Angeles Clippers title prospects by acquiring Rajon Rondo?
No, you got this one.
All right. So, I mean, I think if nothing else on the top player, it's just they're all in for the title, which I think most people thought. But I do think my favorite part about the Rondo trade is that you look at the Clippers and you look at playoff and you're like, playoff P, is he going to do it? Are they going to show up? But we got playoff Rondo now on this Clippers team, who's a bad man. Like, playoff Rondo, people can joke about it if it's a real thing. I've watched a lot of Rondo in the playoffs. I think he's one of the most clutch and just higher performer guys in big games. I think he's going to help a lot. And I think it's as much as Lou Will is a good player too, I think Rondo with the ball is going to benefit their 2 best players in Kawhi and PG a lot more than Lou Will or Pat Bev could have done. I think that's going to really elevate them the most in my eyes. What are your thoughts though, Blake?
Yeah, so I'm with you on that. Like, Rondo's a way better playmaker for others than Lou Will is. In, speaking of playoffs, so we know playoff Rondo, I fully believe in it. Like, I think he honestly just, like, maybe it's effort or he tries harder, because NBA regular season at times can be kind of dull and not the most meaningful. But obviously playoffs is meaningful. That's the end goal here. And Rondo has another gear. But I think if we look back and remember some of the playoff series with Lou Will, I don't remember him playing particularly well himself. He's not the best defender to start with. Rondo's, I feel, a pretty good defender, even though he's a little older. And Lou Will wasn't even shooting that great. So what's the main purpose for having him if he's not going to be an asset on the offensive end or on the defensive end? So I think that makes a lot of sense. And then playmaking, like I mentioned, like, this team desperately needs a playmaker. I still think they could benefit a lot more from if they had someone better than Rondo. Like, me and you talked about Lowry, or even I know they're going after Lonzo. Like, I think those guys would be better playmaking abilities than Rondo per se, but Rondo's still a better playmaker for others than Lou Will. So I love it from their perspective. Vish, what do you think?
I love this move. So to touch on your points about Lou Williams, if you remember, Lou Williams, for whatever reason, could only score in the road in the playoffs. He was, for whatever reason, always struggling to score at home. He didn't have a very good bubble last offseason. And I think what happens to Lou Williams in the playoffs is that his physical limitations in terms of his size and stature and the fact that he shies away from contact and his defensive, I think teams just start to go and wear him out by going at him possession after possession on defense. So for a guy like him, he's not the most ideal player for them in the playoffs. I think Rondo makes a massive impact. Now, I don't know how much of an impact he's going to make in the regular season, but I do know he's going to make a massive impact in the playoffs. And it's for 3 reasons. One, the Clippers are the best three-point shooting team in the NBA. So you know that they share the ball, right? You got Paul George, who's shooting 43% on catch-and-shoot threes. You got Patrick Beverley shooting 44% on catch-and-shoot threes. You got Kawhi Leonard shooting 48% on catch-and-shoot threes. So when they move the ball around, they're able to knock down shots. The discrepancy with that is that they're 19th, or I want to say 19th in the NBA in assists. Yeah, they're 19th in the NBA in assists. Rajon Rondo averages 8 assists a game for his career, so that's going to go up. Second, the Clippers, even this year, they've had trouble closing games, and it's because they lose sight of their ball movement when they're closing games because it becomes a kind of your turn, my turn, ISO type offense. And for a guy like Kawhi Leonard, a rhythm player who likes to get to a spot, if you can throw a double team at him or you can disrupt his timing, it basically screws up the Clippers' closing possessions. And then Kawhi doesn't look like a great scorer because he has to take a great closer because he has to take a bad shot or he's out of rhythm and he passes it and throws the ball away. Well, Rondo is going to change all of that. And if you look at Kawhi's success, he's had success in his career. I mean, he won a championship playing with Tony Parker, who's a true point guard who can create offense for others and knows how to run an offense at the end of the game. You look at Kyle Lowry, just a veteran, tough pit bull point guard with a high IQ who knows how to create offense and run an offense at the end of the game. And Rondo is kind of the same way. And then the third thing is that playoff Rondo thing is such a real thing. And here's what I think. I think, one, Rondo doesn't try in the regular season. And two, I think the playoffs is more conducive to Rondo's style. Rondo has a high IQ, and Rondo controls the pace of the game. In the regular season, it doesn't matter as much to control the pace of every game. I mean, you have the James Hardens and the LeBrons who do it every single night, but you can win games without necessarily controlling when the game speeds up, when the game slows down. In the playoffs, it's so important. There's a reason LeBron James always dominates in the playoffs, because he takes the ball and he dribbles the air out of it, because he knows he can control when people shoot, who shoots when, what kind of shots you're taking, and he controls every single possession like that. Rondo doing that for the Clippers is going to help a lot. I think it'll also help Paul George, because I think there'll be less ball handler pressure on him and a little less pressure on him to go one-on-one. I think this is a massive move for the Clippers.
Yeah, one thing I would say I definitely agree with those takes. And one thing I think that Rondo provides too, and you were saying, is how much he brings to the offense and getting guys in rhythm. And I also look at sometimes just the Clippers, like when they have nights where PG doesn't shoot well or Kawhi doesn't shoot well, and Rondo almost being like a revival card. Whereas like if these guys aren't shooting well, Rondo can make so much of a playmaker that he could get a guy going maybe just from his passes alone. And then once, I don't know, either of those just superstars find the rhythm, then it's usually going pretty good for the team. But just Rondo being such a good playmaker that could really just spur those other guys in the team at any moment, which I think is just cannot be understated.
And then one more guy I wanted to throw in there who I think benefits a lot from that we're not really going to talk about is Ivica Zubac. He doesn't really have a guy to run the pick and roll with, and he's pretty good at running a pick and roll. The dude catches everything for some reason. I don't understand it.
Hands.
He really does, and he has good touch around the rim. Like he is definitely a liability on defense. He gets torched, but they have Serge Ibaka for that role. And Ibaka on the pick and pop too will be really nice. So I think Zubac gets honestly like a pretty nice boost from like having like a more traditional playmaking point guard, because we know Pat Bev is like a pretty good defender and all of that, but like he is he is severely limited on the offensive end and what he can like create for others. So yeah, man, they're looking really nice right now, to be quite honest with you guys.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what their closing lineup will be in the playoffs, because I'm assuming it's going to be some combination of Rondo, Kawhi, Paul George, and then the question is it going to be Ibaka, Marcus Morris? Is it going to be Batum, Marcus Morris? Is it going to be Batum, Ibaka? Is it going to be Pat Bev, Marcus Morris? It'll be interesting to see. I think Kennard has actually fallen out of the rotation a little bit, though. Terrence Mann has been playing really, really good basketball when he comes on for them. Tough, gritty defender, and he's been shooting the lights out, which I didn't expect from him when I saw him at Florida State.
Yeah, definitely. So that